All right, so today we're going to build a full stack fitness log tracker using Nextjs, and we'll use MongoDB and mongoose to interact with our database. We'll use a few more dependencies, but let's go ahead and get started. So first, we'll type in the command to create a project: npx create next app at latest, and I'm going to name my directory my app. And in this project, we won't use TypeScript. We'll say yes to ESLint, yes to Tailwind, no to the SRC, yes to the app router, and no to the import alias. And we'll give it a few minutes to finish installing the dependencies. And let's go ahead and cd into that directory. Then we want to install a few dependencies. First, we'll go ahead and install mongoose, MongoDB, next-auth. Let's do React icons as well. And for right now, we'll go ahead and press enter and install these, but we're going to install more in just a moment. I do want to use nextui in this particular project, so I'm going to go ahead and install the packages for it. And we're going to use the next theme as well. And we'll press enter. This is a fairly larger package, so it may take a few moments to finish installing. Okay, and to go ahead and get us started, let's go into the app directory and let's go to the page.js, and we could just remove all of the code from that page. And we'll use the React snippets to create a function. And let's name this function homepage, and this will be the homepage or the root page of our project. Let's go into the global CSS file and let's remove all of the boiler code within it. We're going to keep the Tailwind CSS file, of course. And let's go ahead and add a body tag. And we're going to have the overflow at set to hidden. Let's save this file, and let's make sure we save our page.js as well. And before we run our project, let's go to the git ignore and let's add our .env file to it. We can close it out. And inside of the my app directory, let's add a file named .env. We're going to need this to store some of our environment variables within this file. The first one we're going to need is for our database connection to MongoDB. So let's go ahead and inside of the terminal type in the command npm run dev and press enter. And I'm going to reduce the size of my text editor so I can bring up a browser and we can have both connection. We can have the browser and text editor open at the same time. And let's get that set up. And let's go ahead and go to localhost 3000 just to make sure that we have our project working properly. And we see on the localhost we're getting homepage. So let's go ahead and set up our database connection. and we're going to use MongoDB and Mongoose to interact with it in this project. We may switch over to Prisma in the next video, but for right now we'll just use Mongoose. So inside of the My App directory, let's add a folder named lib, and we're going to add a file named db.js. And within this file, we're going to store our function that's going to interact with our MongoDB database. So to get it started, excuse me, let's start out by importing mongoose. And let's go from mongoose, and we'll go const connect db, and this is going to be a asynchronous function, and within it we're going to have a try catch block. Then we'll say if mongoose dot connections 0 dot ready state, we want to return true. And underneath it, we're going to go await mongoose.connect process.env, and we're going to name this variable mongo, MongoDB underscore URI. And let's just go ahead and copy this, and let's paste it inside of our .env file. This is going to store our MongoDB connection string, and we'll just console.log MongoDB connected. MongoDB connected. And we want to return true. And inside of the catch, we'll go console.log, and we'll say MongoDB error, and then we'll log the error. That way, if we get the error, we'll know that it's coming from MongoDB or our MongoDB function, and that's where we need to look to troubleshoot the issue. And let's go export defaults connected DB. This way we can use it within various files within our project. And we'll close this out. So now that we have this .env variable set up for our MongoDB connection, we can go ahead and store the connection string from MongoDB to it. So if you don't, go ahead and log into the mongodb.com cluster. And if you already have, once you log in, it's free to set up an account. You should be defaulted to the projects window, which is where I'm at now. Go ahead and click on new project. And you want to name your project first. I'm going to name mine my fitness tracker. And then we'll click on next. And I'm just going to keep the default project owner. And we'll click create project. And then we want to create a deployment. And I'm going to use the free tier. You can first off select the region that is closest to you to make sure that you're getting the connection at the most optimal speed by going to the closest region to you. And then if you want, you can rename your cluster. I just always keep mine as the default. And then once you are finished with the settings and the selections you've made, go ahead and click on create. And now we want to do the quick security, the security quick start. So you'll have your username. You want to select a password. I'm going to use the auto-generated password. So I'm just going to copy it. And I'm going to paste it within my .env file. And I'm going to click create user. And once you're done, you want to go ahead and click finish and clone. And once it's complete, you should be redirected to the overview window. We'll click database, and we see that it is still loading, but that's okay. What we want from this window is to click connect, and then from here we want to click on drivers, and then we want to copy this connection string and paste it within our .env file for the variable, and assign it to the variable MongoDB_URI. And we'll copy our password and we'll paste it in right within the word password, replacing it with the copied password that was generated from MongoDB. Be sure to save the file, and for right now you can go ahead and close it out, and that should care for the connection to MongoDB. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and set up our authentication, and we're going to use next-auth in order to do so. And with next-auth, we'll go to the documentation. We want to use the MongoDB adapter in this particular project, so we'll go ahead and install the dependencies for it. So we'll copy this command and we'll just add another terminal, and be sure to cd into the directory that you created, and we'll paste in the next install auth MongoDB adapter. And we don't necessarily have to wait for it to finish installing, but I'm just going to wait. And once it's finished, we'll go back to our main terminal, and according to the documentation, the next thing we'll need is the MongoDB client. So we'll go ahead and copy this file, and we're going to create a file within our lib directory named client promise. So we'll go to lib, and we'll click the create file button, and we'll name the file client promise.js. And we want to just paste in this code that we got from the documentation, and since we're not using TypeScript, we'll just remove the TypeScript string there. And if you want, you can remove the notes. I like to have it, but the main thing we want to check for is this MongoDB variable, this variable representing the MongoDB string. It needs to match the connection that's within, or the variable name, excuse me, that's within the .env file. So just to make sure that we have it correct, I'm just going to copy what we have from our .env file, and I'm going to replace this variable with ours. It looks to be the same, but let's just make sure, because if it's not correct, we won't be able to connect to our database using the adapter. So once you've copied and pasted and replaced it, just to make sure that it's correct, go ahead and save the client promise file, and you can close out the .env file for right now. And within our app directory, according to the documentation, we need to create the auth API route. So within app, we're going to add a folder named API. And within API, we're going to add another folder named auth. And within auth, we'll add one more folder named open bracket 3 dots next-auth close bracket, and then press enter. And then within this directory, we want to add a file named route.js. Now this route.js file is going to be our API endpoint in order for us to use our Google OAuth to sign in with. So we'll need to bring in a few directories before it will allow us to set it up. So first we'll need to have next-auth, and this is from next-auth. I actually think it is. Yep, let me just grab it from right here. So we're going to grab these two from here, and then we're going to bring in the client promise, and that looks to be just about all that we'll need from there. Now we'll need to set up a we'll need to set up our auth options, and the auth options that we want to have is going to be our Google provider. So we'll go ahead and within this file we'll bring in, well, we'll say first export const auth options is equal to, and we want to have the adapter, which is the MongoDB adapter, and we want to have also have providers, and the providers that we want to have are Google. So let's go within the docs and grab the Google. Let me see, I think it is. Let's go to get started. Let's do it like this. Let's just go to next. And we'll go to get started. And I think we've already installed this adapter. Here we want to grab the providers. We want Google as our provider. So instead of using that one, let's just go to providers. And within providers, we'll go down to Google. And we'll just copy this. And we can replace this provider just to make sure. And we'll need the closing bracket. There we go. And we'll also need to import Google. So we'll import it there. And just to make sure I don't forget it, let's go ahead and add the handler. And this should be equal to next-auth. And we're going to pass in the auth options. And then we want to export the handler as get. And we want to also export the handler as post. Now what we want is to make sure that we save this file, and we need to add our Google client and Google client secret to our .env file. And we want to store this information in the .env file. So first, let's go ahead and copy it. And I'm going to go back to my .env file, and we're going to paste in the Google client ID, and then we want to go to the Google secret. And I'm going to paste it here. And now what we want is to get we want to go to our Google console, and we want to get a Google client ID and Google client secret. So let's go to Google console. And we will need to scroll down. Here we go, Google console. Let's sign in. And once we're signed in, I already have a project set up. But if you go to the process of setting up a OAuth consent screen, and once you set up your OAuth consent screen, you want to set up your credentials. And the main thing you want once you set up your in the process of setting up your credentials, I always have to refresh this in order to get the dashboard to pop up. You want to set up a application, and you can name it whatever you want, but you want to have your authorized JavaScript origins. You want to have the first one set to localhost, and then the next one set to localhost 3000, and then your redirects. I actually get this directly from the next-auth Google documentation. It tells you right here what your redirect needs to be. So I just copied and pasted in, and then the URL, the second one that I add is just your local host. But once you're within this particular window, what we want in order to store within our project is our Google secret and our Google client ID. So I'm gonna grab the secret first and paste it next to the Google client secret, and then the client ID. I tell you what, let's just go to save, and we'll just grab it from right here. That way we know we copy it correctly, and we're going to paste it in. Now we'll also need to store the next-auth secret. Anytime that we're using next-auth, it recommends that you have a secret. Just for this project, I'm not going to go through and create a very complicated secret, but I would recommend, if you were to deploy this and possibly use it out on the World Wide Web, you want to make sure that you have a good, secure secret stored. But for this project, I'm not going to be too concerned with it. So you want to do secret, and then you want to set it the colons, and you want to do process.env next-auth underscore secret, and then add a comma. And then right here, let's go ahead and copy the next-auth underscore secret. And within the .env file, let's paste it, and you can just store or create whatever you want for your secret, then paste it in and save the file. Well, not paste it, but just save the file. And this looks good. I don't think we need anything else within this file. So with this setup, let's go ahead and close out the route.js file. And let's go back within the root directory. So within my app, let's add another file. And let's add, this file name is going to be session provider.js. So what we want to do within this file is we want to add in the session provider, and we want to wrap our application with it. Now we could do this within the layout, the main layout file. In fact, we will export this file into it, but the session provider is a client-side router, and or client-side session, I should say, and it uses, and with Nextjs, all files are server files by default. So we want to use the use client, but I don't want to turn the application or the layout file into a client. So I'm going to store this into a separate file. So within this file, at the very top, we're going to add in use client, because like I said, this is going to be a client-side file. And then we want to import, and we can go brackets, and let's just go from next-auth, and we'll go /react. And what we want to import is session provider, and we'll go const auth provider. That's what I want to name this, or the wrapper, and we're going to pass in children and session, and nope, this is going to be parentheses, and we want to wrap session provider, and within the session provider we want to pass in children, and then session provider also gets session. We want to set it equal to session, and then down at the bottom, let's go export default auth provider, and this looks good. Let's go ahead and save this file, and now we want to wrap our application with auth provider. So within the app directory, let's go to layout.js, and within the body HTML tag, let's copy the children JavaScript listed there, and we want to add auth provider. And if you type in capital AUTH capital P, you should be able to import it from @session file. And within the auth provider, we want to pass in the children. That way our application is wrapped with the auth provider. And we see that we are getting module not found. So let's do this within the additional terminal that we have. Let's type in npm I next-auth to install next-auth. And it is done. And if we save it, okay, now we notice that we're no longer getting the error, so I guess I forgot to install next-auth. Sorry about that. But you do see that we're getting this warning that we don't have a next-auth URL. So let's go ahead and copy this variable name. And once we copy it, let's go into our .env file. And let's paste in the next-auth underscore URL. And that URL for us is going to be http ://localhost 3000. And let's hit save. And we can close out our .env file now. Now let's go back to our localhost 3000 and refresh the page, and we see that we're not getting any errors in our terminal. So good. Now let's go ahead and see if our authentication is working using the Google provider. So we'll want to set up our header. That's where we're going to store the authentication. And to kind of talk about the flow of the app a little bit, we're going to have a landing page that will have a welcome and a button for users to sign up or log in. That will then redirect you to the login page, which will just be the Google login icon, and a user can click on the Google icon. Once they're logged in, they'll be redirected to the dashboard, and the dashboard is going to store all exercises that are logged. And within that dashboard, you'll have the ability to create, update, and delete any posted workout. So that's kind of, and I probably should have used the Visual Studio Code program to diagram it out. If you'd like for me to start doing that, I'll be happy to do so. That way you could have had a visual to understand the flow of it, but we'll kind of talk through it as we build it. But first, let's just make sure that the authentication is working. And before we set up let's just go ahead and set up our header first. So we'll close out the layout and the session directory. But before we do that, let's make sure we save this file. And now we'll close it out. Now inside of my app, let's add a folder named components. And within components, let's add a folder named header. And within components, let's also add a folder named buttons. I just don't like having the directory without two folders in it. And within the header directory, let's add a file named index.js. And let's add the RFCE template, and let's rename this component to header. So this header is going to be where we store our authentication, where a user can see if they're logged in, and they'll also have access to the navigation where they can click on post a new workout, in order to post a new workout. So let's add this to a layout just to make sure that we can see it. And in the app directory, what I want to do is I want to add another folder named website. And within website, this is going to be the directory. Let me spell website correctly first. Website. Now within website, this is going to hold all of our web pages within our application, with Next.js, because the routing is set up based off of the directory name. You just have the page.js within the file. So the first website that I want to store within this directory is the login page. And within website, I also want to have a directory or a website page named dashboard. So dashboard is going to have its own layout, as login is going to share login is just going to have the sign in button for Google. So let's go ahead and add in the login directory a file named page.js. And we'll do the RFCE template, and we'll name this function login page. Let's save this file. And let's close out the page.js and the index.js. And within the page.js, the main one that's within the app directory, it should be named home page if you follow my naming convention. let's add a link. And if you type in the bracket capital LIN, you should have the ability to arrow down and bring in the next dash or next slash link. This is from Nextjs, and then we want to add an href, and the href we want to have inside of the href, excuse me, we want to have it redirect to /login, and I just want to have this to make sure that it's working, excuse me, and it redirects to the login page. So if we save this file, it looks a little funky right now, so we'll I tell you what, let's remove that home page and let's add a H2, and we'll just say home page within it. And within this div, we'll go a class name flex and flex column. That way they're not next to each other, they're on top of each other. And if we save and we click on login, we see that we're redirected to the login page. So now within the login page, I want to have the Google sign in button so that you can log in with Google. And what we'll do from there is that if you do have a session, you'll automatically be redirected to the dashboard page. But for right now, let's just have it redirect you to dashboard. So within the website directory, that's within the website directory, within the dashboard folder, let's add a file named layout.js, and we'll go RFCE, and we'll have a export of layout, and we want to pass in the children, CHILDREN, and we'll remove layout and we'll pass in children. Let's save this, and here we want to bring in the header that we created earlier, so we'll pass in header, and we want to import it from components, and we'll save this file. Now within the dashboard directory, we should have only have the layout.js. We also want to add another file named page.js, and within here we will create a function, and let's name it dashboard page. And this is where we want the user to be redirected once they are successfully logged in. So let's go ahead and close out the dashboard page. Let's close out layout, and we can close out home page as well too. And within buttons, let's add a file named login with Google, google.js. This file will hold the login button in order to log in with Google. We could have stored it within the page itself, but I placed it here in the event you ever thought about scaling this project, or if I thought about scaling it, you may want to put this login button in a different location. That way we're going to have it reusable. So within this file, let's start by bringing in use client, because this is going to be it's going to have some client side functionality. And we also want to have a import. The first one is going to be from next-auth/React, and the next one is going to be a icon, and I'm going to be using React icons within this project, and we'll use the FA. So I don't think we installed this dependency, so let's go to our free terminal and let's type in npm React icons and press enter. And it should only be a second to install. Okay, and now that it is done installing, we'll go back to our main terminal to make sure we see everything is running, and we're going to import first. First we'll need to do our import from next-auth, and we want to have sign in within this file, so we're going to use sign in, and we'll also have the FA icon of Google. That should have, let me see, React. No, I didn't put it in parentheses, that's why. That should have, make sure it comes in like this. Sorry about that. There we go. And let's create an RFC function. We can remove the import from React, and we'll go log in with Google. Let's remove this div and we're going to replace it with a button. And our button will have a on-click handler. And we want to pass in sign in that we are importing from next-auth. And we want to pass in Google. You know, we could just leave it blank and use the default, but I'll do it this way in case you want to customize it even more. But for this particular project, I'm just going to have it pretty simple. And I'm going to go class name text black. And we're going to get some padding on the Y. And we'll give a little bit on the X. PX, that's 4. We'll go rounded. And we'll go flex item center because we're going to add in the icon of Google. And we're also going to have the words of sign in a span. Sign in, no, so sign in with Google. And we'll hit save. And let's see what this looks like. So let's go back to our main directory inside of app. Let's go to login page.js. And let's remove the login page and let's bring in the login with Google button component. Let's hit save. And you see it says they have the G icon, the Google icon, excuse me. We have sign in with Google. Let's add a little bit of margin. Let's go class name, margin right 2. So it's a little bit of space. I guess we could have did gap 2. Let's do gap instead. There we go. And let's see what we get. Let's click on sign in. You know what? We need to add, let's add the function. Yeah, let's go ahead and see if it signs in, see if we get an error first. So we'll click sign in. We're signing in with the JA-DAB. And it just redirected us and we did not get an error. So let's make sure that we do have a function. There's a couple ways of function. Let's make sure that we do have a session and that we're logged in. There's a few ways that we can go about it. Obviously, we're going to check our database to make sure that it is shown within our database. But before we do that, let's get a little bit of confirmation within the actual project itself. So what I want to do now is I want to set up an automatic redirect in the event that we are already logged in. I want it to redirect us to the dashboard. And in order to do so, the easiest way to do so is to use the router from Next Navigation. And of course, that's a client-side functionality. So we'll need to make this login page or wherever we're using this functionality a client-side page. So at the top, I'm going to make this a client-side application. And I want to bring in a few additional items. First one is going to be from Next Navigation. And it's going to be the router, and it is use router. Yep, if I'm not mistaken. Then we want to bring in use effect. This is from React, and we'll go use effect. We'll also need to bring in from next-auth. We'll need to bring in use session. So first, we're going to bring in our router, and our router is basically going to do just that. It's going to route us based on a condition. Use router. No, it's empty. And let me see. Next application. Okay, that looks good. Next, we want to get access to our session. And that is from use session. This is going to help us get the user's information and also give us the status of the session. So we'll start by using useEffect and say if the status, no, this needs to be a caret to make an arrow. If the status is equal to authenticated, we're going to go router.push. We want to push it to dashboard. And within here, we want to pass in status. And we're getting another error. I think this one should be, this should have been here. Yep, there we go. And let's do this because I have a feeling it is going to, once I click save, it's going to redirect. So let's go ahead and style this. Let's make this height full. We'll say flex column. For the direction, we'll say justify center, item center, and let's give a little bit of padding top of 4. Let's hit save, and we see that it shifted to the items to the center based on the styling, but more importantly, it also redirected us to the dashboard page, so that's showing that we are getting a session. Now if we close out the page.js, let's go back to our header folder that's within components, and if we go to the file named index.js, it should take us to our header component. Within this page, this directory, what we want to do is we want to style our header, and for styling I want to use the nextui, get a little bit of practice of doing something a little different than just the traditional Tailwind CSS for styling. And I'm going to use the basic navbar components that they have listed here for some styling. So I think the ones that I want to use are just going to be pretty simple, because we're not going to do a whole lot with this from a styling perspective, but we do want to have it looking pretty good. So we'll go with this code, and I want to import a few of these items. I think we'll just use, let's go back to our directory. Let's just import all of this, and we can clean it up a little bit. And the main additional imports before we style it, I guess, is I want to grab the session. So we're going to need to add in a few additional things within this file to grab session, because I'm going to use this as server-side rendering. Within our lib directory, let's add another file named get server user .js. What this is this going to allow us to grab or create a special hook for our user session, so that we can use it within additional directories within our server functions, or server actions, excuse me. So first we want to make sure that we denote that this is going to be a server file, and we're going to bring in get server session. No, it is equal require. You could have did this as an import, but I'm just doing it as require. And then we'll need to import our auth options. And remember, this is going to come from the API auth and next-auth. And then we want to create a function named get server user, and we're going to set that equal to async. And we want to say const session, session, is equal to await get server session that we're going to be importing from next-auth, and we want to pass in the auth options. and we want to return the session and the user. And last but certainly not least, let's make sure that we export it and export server user. Okay, now let's go ahead and save this file. So now that we have that out the way, let's go ahead and go back to our header file, and within it we want to import get server session, and this is going to be coming from next-auth. We want to also import the auth options. This is coming from the API route that we created. And for right now, let's just go ahead and make sure that we are getting the session and we can display information. So first, let's make sure that we make this a asynchronous function. Remember, this is a server-side component, and we're going to go session is equal to await. And it's going to be await get server session, and we want to pass in the auth options. And just to make sure that this is working properly, let's just do a little simple conditional render. Excuse me. And we're going to say if there's a session and the answer, there we go. And we'll go ahead and get rid of this. What we need to put in that, and right here we'll go if there's not a session, and just once. All right, so if there is a session, we want to pass in a link with an href, and we're going to go dashboard to new, and we haven't created that directory or that route just yet, and we want this to say post exercise. And we're also going to add in the logout button, but I want to make sure that we can see this information first. And if we go back to our page, excuse me, we see that we have the post exercise link, so we know that we're getting in a session. And if we're not, we want to have links that show this is going to be to log in. We'll say sign in. And we could do the same thing and have it say join. Uh-oh. And let's save it. So now I want to add a logout button so that the user has the ability to log out once they, if they just want to log out and not keep the session going. So within the buttons directory, that's within components, let's add another file named logoutbutton.js. And this is also going to be a client-side component. We're going to have the router within it. Once we log out, we want to be redirected to a different page. We're going to have sign out. This is coming from next-auth. And I'm going to bring in the log out icon from React Icons. It's log fi log out. It'll help if I do this first from React-icon/fi, and let's go log out. And let's create the logout function. So let me just do it this way. RFCE, and I can remove that one. And first we want to get access to the router, the same way we did before. And let's create a handle, let's call it sign out, asynchronous function. This way we're not passing it directly to the button itself. We'll go await sign out, and we'll go router.push. Because we want to redirect, we're going to redirect you back to the landing page. And within the return statement, let's just go ahead and bring in the logout button first. So let's go back to the index.js file that represents our header. Underneath the link, let's bring in the logout button component, and we should see it right next to the post workout. It says the router is not mounted. So let's go back to the logout button. It went from next/router versus navigation. So let's just change that to navigation. And now we see the logout button is listed here. So let's just begin to give it some functionality. First, we can remove this div, or you can just clear it so that there's nothing within it. And within it, we want to give it a class name. Let's go flex item center. And let's give it a gap of 2. And we want to have a button. And I'm going to just give it fi logout. Let's go class name here, text to Excel. And we'll give this a class name of on click. Well, we won't go class name. We'll go on click. And this is going to hold the handle submit function that we'll handle sign out function that we just created. So let's click save. And now you see that we have the post exercise and the logout button listed here. So let's just see if the logout button works. Once we click logout, we see that we're back on the dashboard page. It's still holding on to the session. So it should have redirected us to this page, but it took us to the dashboard page. Okay, so we'll need to fix that. So once we sign in, we see that the sign in portion is working. But once we click logout, let's save this again. It should be redirecting us to the home page, not this dashboard page. Okay, so we'll be sure to come back and fix that, because this is where it should be taking us. And then we'll click on log in with Google, and once we get a session, it redirects us. Okay, so we'll fix the logout functionality, but I want to go ahead and continue on with building out some of the styling of our website. So we'll start by styling the header first. And like I said, I want to use the nextui to kind of help us with a little bit of styling. So within the header, let's go ahead and just, we can just copy this and delete it, because we'll just paste it back in a moment. But for right now, let's remove the div. And within it, let's add in the header tag. Let's give header a class name of px. We'll go for py8. And within the header, I want to have the nav bar. And we're going to go with is boarded. And within the nav bar, we'll go nav bar content. And within it, we want to have the nav bar brand. And within the brand, we're going to have a link so that if you click on the brand, it redirects you back to the, we'll have it redirect you back to the home page. But and we're going to name our website fitness tracker. We'll make it all capital. Let's save it. And you see that we now see fitness tracker. And by the way, I'm getting this from the nextui library. The styling for this. So underneath nav brand, we have nav content. And now we want to add some additional content. And we'll go with open bracket nav bar content. And we'll have a closing bracket. Now with this one, this is just strictly styling. I'm going to go with class name justify end so that it is at the end of the nav bar. And within it, I want to have a nav bar item. And the item we want to have within it, let's give it a class name because we're going to have a couple of icons. And we'll go class name flex. And we'll have the item center. And we may need to add that to in a couple other spots. But we'll see what we get as we start to save and build out our page. But what I want to have listed here is a theme toggle. And this is going to come from nextui. So as you can see, this is what it looks like now. So I know I'm going to want to style it just a little bit differently. But it's, so let's add our theme toggle first. So within the buttons folder that's within components, let's add a directory named theme, or excuse me, a file named theme toggle gle.js. And what we'll be storing here is a theme toggler that's going to allow us to toggle our page from light and dark mode. But before we add this, we're going to need to bring in, or fully bring in, excuse me, the nextui library. So let's go back to the docs and let's go to installation. And first we'll need to bring in the nextui. So we'll copy it and let's go down to our tailwind.config file. Let's paste it in, and this is coming directly from the documents. We'll need to add in the content. Paste it in here. And while I'm here, I'll go ahead and remove the background. I want to add in some colors so that we can use primary, secondary, and whatever else we want to use. So for this project, I'm going to use primary. And I'm going to set this color to EB7 525. That should give us a orange style color. And then I'm going to go secondary. C-O-N-D-A-R-Y. And I want to go pound F29. I think it is E23. And then we'll have a dark green. No, you know what? We're going to just have the light green. We're not going to use it very often, but I want to have the option. We'll go pound E606 C38. We'll hit save, and we'll need to add in the plugins as well. So we'll just copy it. We'll hit save. Now, this is a client-side dependency. So we'll need to add this into our application, but we're going to add it the same way that we added the session provider because they both are client-side. And again, we want to keep our layout as a server-side component. So what we want to do is, where will we want to put this at is the question. I tell you what, let's go let's go within our root directory. Let's add a file named next theme provider.js. I think this has to be in the root anyway, at the root. Okay, at the root application. But I know that's technically talking about in the layout, but we'll just add this file as a client-side file. Let's go import, and we'll go from next-themes. And what we want to import is theme provider as next theme provider. We're going to go export function, export function, and we'll name the function next theme provider, of course. And we'll pass in some children, children. That's just going to represent the application, and we're going to return next theme provider, and we'll pass in the children, of course. And inside of the provider, we want the attribute to be set to class, and we want to go enable system. This is just giving access to our application, SYSTEM, to use this functionality. And this is coming from the documents. All I basically did was create it as, set it up so that it could be exported and be used within our layout as a regular component without changing the entire file to a client-side component. So within the layout file, that's within the app folder, not the other one that's within the website folder, but the one that's in app. Let's copy the children and let's remove it. And I know that we had the session, but we'll come back to it later. It's fine. Let's bring in next theme provider, and let's paste in our children. Let's save this file. Next theme provider is defined multiple times. Oh, so this needs to be the theme provider from next theme provider.js. You know what? Let's do this. Let's move this file into our lib directory. There we go. Now let's save it. Still, the name next theme provider is defined multiple times. Where else do I have this thing defined there? Let's go import, because this should be coming from the import, but it looks like it's pointing back at the next theme. So let's do import next theme provider from @lib, and let's go back to this file. Let's go next theme provider. 1 second. Yes, theme provider from next themes, and export function next theme attribute class system. Here we go. Let's remove this. Is this thing is let's change the name of this to themes provider. And then we'll go back and make this, that's right, this needs to be themes. Sorry, you gotta change the name of it. And that's good, that looks good. We'll go to our layout. Let's try this again. Import next theme. Up. And save it. And what error are we getting in the console? Function components. Oh, that looks good. Huh. Why is this thing giving me an error? Hold on 2 seconds. Come back to the toggle. Theme provider as. There we go. There we go. No errors. Let's close that out. And now, there we go. All right. And so we have our theme toggle here. So now, sorry about that. I needed to bring in the theme provider, and I had to change the name of Next Themes. I had the names the same, and it was conflicting. So I had to change the one to Next Themes with an S provider, and then it went through. So sorry about that. But now I want to bring in the theme toggler button. So let's go back to the theme toggle.js file that is located within our our buttons directory, and let's go ahead and start by making this a client-side file. Excuse me. And we want to bring in use theme from Next Themes. And we're also going to bring in use effect. And we want to use use state as well to capture the state of the toggler. And I want to use the switch from the next-auth React package. And we'll be bringing in some icons as well. They're going to be from React. React-icons/fi. Let's go with the sun, and let's go with the moon. And now we want to save this, and let's bring in let's use the RFCE template. We can remove the React, and let's go ahead and import the toggler so that we can see it on screen as we are building it out. So we'll go with theme toggle. Let's save this file, and within the theme toggle, first we'll need to mount this, and we can we'll type in mounted and set mounted. And this is coming from, we're going to use the state to manage this, and we'll set it to false. And we'll set the theme, set theme, and resolve theme. We'll set that equal to use theme. And we'll say use effect. Let's come outside of that. And we want to pass in the set mounted to true. And outside of that use effect, outside of the curly brackets, we want to pass in a empty array. Excuse me. And then now we want to create a handle toggle function to toggle the state, and we'll go to toggle, and inside of it we'll go set theme, and we'll say resolve theme is equal to light, and we'll go dark. Uh-oh. There we go. We'll go dark. And then we'll go back light. And this is basically just saying, this is allowing us to toggle the classes of light and dark so that we have the ability to change the state. And this is coming from the nextui documents. You could have used here, usually you would use like local storage or local state as a way to manage it. But I'm using what's inside of the docs in nextui. And we'll say if not mounted, we'll return null. And within the return statement, we want to have a div. And within the div, we want to bring in the switch. And this is coming from nextui. And we'll say within the switch, we'll go resolve theme and set it equal to dark. Now within switch, I'm going to save it just to see what we get. And this is what it looks like. And you notice that it toggles. So now we want to add some functionality to it so that it changes the state. So within switch, we're going to go default selected. And we'll go resolve theme. And we'll say is equal to dark. And we'll go size, and this is just to size it. I'm gonna go large, and it's gonna need an onChange handler, and we're gonna pass in the function we just created, handle toggle, and we'll go with it starts content, and this is going to be set to the sun. I think the sun is the right one. It's our sun. Okay. And end content, we need that as well. We need to set that equal to the moon. Now let's save it. And you see we have a toggle here. Great. Okay, now let's continue to style out we can remove this. Continue to style out our nav bar. Excuse me. So we can close out the layout.js and we can close out the theme toggle as well. And within the index.js file that represents our header, we have a nav bar that we are using, which is a pre-built component that we're using from nextui. We have our link, the nav bar, which is going to be representing the logo, which is in the nav bar brand, which is the reason that it is a little more pronounced on the page. And we also have the nav bar content, which is just basically giving it blocks to hold the content. So let me see something here. If I remove that, what does it do? Nothing. Okay. So what I want is I would like for this content to be spaced out a little bit. I think with this one, you could just go justify and set it equal to n. There we go. Because that's a pre-built functionality within the nextui. So what I do want is I like for the content to be showing, and I probably should have just noted it out, but we can type it back out again. It's no big deal. So we'll say if there's a session, we want to pass in some information, and if there isn't a session, we want to pass in the login links, the login and sign in links. So first we'll start with if there is a session. Let's go with a link. And it should already be imported. And this link is going to represent the post exercise link, ESCRCISC. And that route is going to be dashboard dashoarb./new. We haven't created it just yet, but we will in a moment. And we're also going to add in the log out button. And we need to go back and care for the redirect. I think it was push. I think we probably should have went with redirect now that I'm thinking about it, but I'm not going to spend too much time on it right now. We'll come back to it. Let me go router push, router redirect. So sign out. Nope, that wasn't it. We'll come back to it. And we'll just go back to sign in, log in, and take us back to the page. And we see that we have the link to post exercise. Let's make sure that this routing is working. So within the website, the bracket, within the directory name website, that's within parentheses, within the dashboard directory, that's within that folder. Let's add a new folder named new. And within it, we're going to add a file named page.js. And we'll add the RFCE template, RAFCE, and we're going to name this new exercise page. And let's save it. And we can close it out for right now. And we'll go to the, if there's not a session, we want to add in a link. And we want it to redirect to login. And we'll also show one that says sign up, but it's going to redirect to login too. Let's save this. And let's make sure that the post exercise is working. And it appears to be because it's redirecting to the new exercise page. Let's go back to home. And if we click on login, we see that it takes us to the login page and it immediately redirects us because we still have a session going. So I think I would rather this redirect us to dashboard. That way we don't have to go all the way back to the home page, but we do and will need to style it. And I think we'll also, thank you, Mr. Muhammad. Appreciate it. And we'll also need to style the home page, and we'll need to do some additional styling to our new page as well, and give it some functionality so we can create new exercises. So first, I want to go ahead and begin by adding in some server actions so that we can confirm that we have access to the database. We're querying it for exercises as well. But first, let's just make sure that we do have a user within the MongoDB database. So if we go back to MongoDB and we click on Browse Collections, and if we click on Users, you're going to see that the user that we signed in with, if you're following me, you should see that that user is now being stored within the MongoDB database, and that is because of the MongoDB adapter. So let's go ahead and go back to the nextui page for right now. And what we want to do is we want to style this dashboard a little bit for our card layouts. But while we're also styling the card layouts, if we don't have any cards, we want to query the database as well too. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and close out the header or the index file .js that represents the header, and let's go to the page.js that represents the main dashboard. Now there's a couple ways we could have done this, but for this project I'm going to have all of our cards listed here on this dashboard. So what I want to do first, let's go ahead and remove this div and let's replace it with a section. And that section is going to have a class name. We're going to give it a P padding on the X of 4 and padding on the Y of 8. Now you know what? Let's set the height to full, and let's give it some padding top of, No, let's do this instead. I think the way we want this to look is, so let's go to the layout.js file first. Let's remove this information here, save it, because this way if we style it within the layout, it'll be consistent throughout. Let's go ahead and copy this children and delete it, and let's add in a main HTML tag. Let's paste in the children, and inside of main, let's give it a class name. Let's go with flex column. Min height of the viewport is going to be screen. We're going to go max width screen, and I want to set this to large. That way the content is placed in the middle of the window, and so that it is, I'm sorry, not placed in the middle of the window, but that way the size of it is only set to the large width. But using the MX Auto, it's going to automatically center the children. So if we click save, we won't see anything because I don't have anything on the dashboard page right now. But now let's go back to the dashboard page and let's type in dashboard page. Let's save it. You're going to see that we see the dashboard page here. And if we expand out the window, you'll now see that it is within the middle of the window. We just don't have any padding. So we'll go to our dashboard page and let's add a little bit of padding. That way it looks a little more consistent among the page here. So let's do this. Let's go with the dashboard page and let's give it a class name. Let's start by going section px-4 py-8. Let's save it. Okay. Now within the section, let's remove the dashboard. Let's add a div and let's work on our layout. Let's give the div a class name, and we're going to go with grid, and we'll go grid columns. And on small windows, I want it to be one column, and on medium devices and bigger, I want it to be 2 columns. Feel free to change this any way that you like. And I think what we want to do next is let's just go ahead and begin to query our database for no, I tell you what, before we query the database, let's fix this window. Let's go ahead and build out what our exercise card will look like. So within the components directory, let's add a component name exercise, or excuse me, a folder name exercise card. And then inside of it, let's add a file, and let's name this file exercise card.js. And this particular file is going to be what holds our exercise card. We're going to have the card is going to have a few different functionality built in within it, but this is going to be where we store it, and we'll store additional components within this directory, and we're going to leverage other components as well too. But for right now, let's just create a function so that we can have the exercise card on our screen. Let's save this, and let's go back to the dashboard page, and let's import the exercise card. And if we save it, we'll see that we have an exercise card listed here on the screen. So let's go back to our exercise card component, and let's start to style it a little bit just to see what it looks like. So in order to style it, we're going to use the nextui, and I want to use the card component. So I think we'll just go ahead and grab this and paste it in, and let's go card. and we'll give it a class name. We'll go max width screen, and we'll go small. And let's give it a card header. And within the card header, let's have a div. This div will need a class name. Let's go card header just to see something. There we go. And you can start to see the card listed there. And because it's only one, you see it listed like this. So let's add a few more just to make sure the layout is what we want. And as you can see, this is what the layout looks like. So I think I want this to look a little different. I'm not going to worry too much about it right now, but we'll come back and clean it up. I think I'm just going to give it a little bit of space because I don't want them to be touching each other. I would prefer that it has a little bit of spacing. So we'll just go gap 6. That should be fine. We can always change it. But for right now, we'll go back to the mobile view of it. So we have the card header, and within the card header, I want to remove, well, no, we'll keep this for right now. Let's build out this div. This div is going to have our header information. The first thing we want to have in the header is the exercise name, the name of the exercise, and then on the far right, we're going to have a trash can, which is going to represent deleting the exercise if that's what you choose to do. So we'll go flex, we'll go flex, let's go with full. It will go justify between because we want the name to be on one side and the trash can to be on the other. And we'll give a little bit of padding as well. We'll save it. All right, now that looks a little better. So let's start by bringing in link. And if the user clicks on this, I want them to be redirected to the individual. They click on the name. I want them to be redirected to the individual exercise page where they can update the exercise and also see personal notes of the exercise. Now you can easily turn this into a social style site. I kept it as a single user login platform, but you can easily make this so that it can be used more of a social site and the user can have their own personal page and you can comment, etc. So if that's something you'll be interested in, just let me know. I'll be happy to expand on this. But for right now, we're just going to have it redirect the user to the exercise page where they can update it and see personal information. So the route for that, and we haven't created it just yet, it's going to be dashboard / exercise, and we're going to pass in the ID of this exercise dynamically. But for right now, I'm not going to be too concerned with it. So we'll just go, no, it's going to, I don't know if it's going to let me keep that ID there, but we'll try it to see. Yeah, I didn't think it would. We'll just keep it like this for right now. And we'll go exercise name. And outside of that link, I tell you, let's put this link in a p tag just in case, depending upon the behavior of it, because it's technically not a div. Outside of that p tag, let's go ahead and add in a button. And inside of that button, I want to have a delete icon, and it's going to be a client side icon. So let's go ahead and just put it in a separate file. So inside of the buttons directory, let's add a new folder or new file, name delete icon.js. And let's just go RFCE for right now, delete icon, so we can have something on the page. Let's go back to the exercise card, and we can bring in this delete icon onto the page and save it. And now you see we have the exercise name and the delete icon. That's going to represent the header of our card. And underneath the card header, let's go ahead and I'll tell you what, before we move on, let's just go ahead and style and set up the delete icon. So within the delete icon file, what we basically want to have here is a trash can that represents the option that if you click on it, it'll automatically delete the exercise for you. So let's go ahead and import the trash can, which is the star of the show. We'll go, this is going to come from React icons. It's going to be a FI icon, and we'll just go FI trash. And let's remove this div and let's replace it with trash. And it's closing. We'll give it a class name of hover text, and we'll make it red 500. And if you hover over it as well, we want to go cursor pointer. And let's save this. And you see that it is now updated on the screen. And once you hover over it, the color of it changes red. Okay, perfect. So we can actually just save this and close it out. And now let's go back to the card header and let's continue building out the card itself. So underneath the card header, let's go with the card body. And inside of the card body, I want to have a div, and let's give it a class name of flex, justify around, and let's give it a padding of 4. And what we're going to have in the middle is the duration of the workout and also how many calories burned. And I want them to be a little more centered here, more so than on the edges, kind of how the name and the delete icon are. So we'll start by creating another div and giving it the class name of flex. And we want to have the flex direction set to column and item centered. And the first one we're going to have listed is the duration. So we'll go span duration, and it should pop in right about here. There we go. And underneath it, we'll have span, and we'll have, we'll type it in minutes. But what we'll actually have right here is the actual duration. So if it's like 30 minutes, it'll say 30 minutes. And in that way you can see that the length of time you went was 30 minutes. Let's go with a class name here. Let's go with text bold. Is it text bold or font bold? There we go, font bold. And I think this one can be class name, font, L-I-G-H-T. That looks a little better. Great. So we basically can just copy this because this is going to be the same thing. The only difference will be, nope, we're going to need both of these. The only difference will be this one will be calories. And we can just type the number here. We'll just say 400. And we'll hit save. And I think I would rather it be, let's see. Actually, I think I grabbed too many divs. Yeah, remove this. Let's put this here and go here like that. There we go. Much better. All right, sorry about that. I grabbed too many divs. So this is basically the look that we want for the card. Now, underneath this div underneath this card body, we want to bring in the card footer. And within that, we want to have a div as well. And we'll give it a class name of flex. We want the width to be full. Justify between, and we'll go pattern of 4. And what we want here is a little rating system that you can rate the workout, and the workout rating will be there'll be dumbbell icons instead of like stars or likes, and you'll have the ability to rate the workout between 1 and 5. And then on the far right, we're going to have a little color indicator that kind of explains or gives a defining word of the workout, whether it was a good workout or just a blah workout. All of that will be dynamically rendered based on whatever the user enters. So I think we will start by bringing in the display, and then a mood and a workout display. So within the card, let's add a file named rating display.js, and we'll just go RFCE on it. And back inside of the exercise card, let's add in rating display, and let's save it. Yep. And we'll also need to add a mood display. So we'll go mood display.js. And let's go back into the card so we can see it. All right. So on the far left will be our icons to represent the rating, and on the right will be a functionality that we can select the mood, and it'll automatically pop or dynamically display our mood. So let's go ahead and style the rating first, and we can close out some of these files. Close out layout. Let's go to rating display first.js, and we'll start by bringing in a few imports as usual. For this one, I think we only need the dumbbell, so we'll go with React icon slash, and I think that one is FA dumbbell. Yep, that's it. And within this function, we want the ability to see all of the icons and their resting state or their initial state, and then on click, if we, based on the rating that we give it, we want the icons that we rate to be highlighted. So let's start by setting a max rating, and we'll set that equal to 5. And then first we'll go with a field. We'll call it field dumbbell color. Dumbbell color is equal to text. We'll make this color yellow. We'll set it to 500. Change that to anything that you like. And I'm going to create another variable named empty, empty dumbbell color. I'm going to set that one text gray is equal to, well, no, text gray 300. And then now what we want is, we want to display these dumbbells and conditionally render them based on the rating, if they're selected or not. So first let's work on the layout. We'll give it a class name of flex. We'll go justify start, and we'll go align baseline, and we'll give it a gap of 4. This is just for the placement. And for right now, I won't worry about the functionality until we actually create a exercise, but I'm going to give this a class name of flex, column items center, and we'll go flex. And I want to have something on the screen, so we'll go FA dumbbell. And if I save this, what do I get? Okay, I'm just going to show this for right now. This is going to be conditionally rendered later, but for right now, we'll just go text grade 300. Now let's go 400. Okay. Okay, and you still can see it, light or dark mode. Cool. All right, so now that we have that styled, we'll need to come back and update the conditional rendering. Let's go ahead and style the rating display next. No, I'm sorry, the mood display. There we go. So once you click on mood display, you see right now we just have the regular functioning component. This one is going to conditionally render a mood based on the mood that we pass into it. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and we can do the same thing that we just did. So let's start by, we'll do the div first. Well, instead of it being a div, let's make it a span. And the span is going to have a class name. And this is going to be a dynamically passed class name. So I think, I'm trying to make sure we don't get any errors. So we'll just add the functionality of it first. So what we want is we want to get the color. And we want to set it equal to mood. And we're going to pass in the mood here. This is what we're going to get from the database. And we're going to add this to the card. And it's going to be passed to the card as a prop. But for right now, we're just going to create the styling for us so we can have something on the screen. And we'll say if the mood, if there is no mood, we want to return the background. Actually, we can return BG gray. What was it? 300? BG gray 400. 400. Then we'll say let color to create the variable, and in it we want it. Well, inside of the get color, underneath the get variable, underneath the get color variable, we want to have a switch statement. And I think, you know what, I'm not going to worry about this piece just yet. Let's just remove this because I don't want to get any errors. And we'll go with mood. And yeah, that'll be fine for right now. Let's just make the text gray 400 so they're consistent. But we'll come back and add those in once we're ready to dynamically pass them. So I think now that we have the cards in place and we have our layout in a pretty good space, let's go ahead and build in, and we want to add I'm gonna add a footer as well too. Let's go ahead and build in the capability to add in new cards. So I'll tell you what, before we add new cards, let's show that we don't have any cards within the database first. So inside of the lib directory, let's add a file named data.js. And on the top, at the top of it, let's add the use server. Let's set this as a server file. And what I want to do is I want to have the ability to query the database now to see if we have any new exercises. If we don't have any new exercises, then what I want to show is, hey, post your first exercise. And if we do have the exercise, I want to start to post it on the card that we have created. So first, let's create a function. Well, we'll first need to create a function that queries the database for any exercises. And in order to do so, we'll need to give it a structure or a model in order to look for the exercise and what to grab. So inside of the my app directory, let's add a folder named models. And inside of models, let's add a file named exercise.js. And within this, we want to store our exercise schema so that we can organize our data in the database. So let's start by typing in import mongoose. And we want to import it from mongoose. And then we want to go constant exercise, exercise schema, schema, is equal to new mongoose.schema. And inside of it, we want to have a name, and it's going to be a string. And we're going to have a duration, which is a number. We'll go calories as a number. Rating will be a number, and you can rate the exercise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The mood, we could have did this as a number too to make it easier, but I'm going to set it as a string. And then based on the string, we're going to render a message, and the message is also going to be associated with a color. And then finally, we're going to have notes. And the notes, I just want to have it as a string as well. And then we want to export default mongoose.models. And we'll go exercise or mongoose.model. We'll go exercise schema. Okay, let's be sure to save this. This looks good. And we can close it out. Now let's go back into our data.js file. And let's go ahead and start by bringing in some imports. The main one we're going to need is the exercise, the model that we just created. And we're also going to need to connect to the database. So we'll go with import connect. And the first one should bring in the function to connect to our MongoDB database. We're going to go export, export, const, and the first function is going to be to get the exercise. So we'll go get exercises, because we're going to have a single as well. And this is going to be an asynchronous function. We don't need to pass anything to it. It's going to be fairly simple. And we're going to say inside of a try catch block, first we're going to await our connection to the database. And we're going to go constant exercise, exercises is equal to await. We want to await the exercise.find. And we want to return exercises. And if we get an issue, we want to throw new error. And we'll say failed to get exercises. And we want that error. Okay. And now what we want to do is we want to use this function within our dashboard page. So let's go back to the rating display. We can close out the mood, and nope, it's not open. Let's just go to the website folder, inside of it, dashboard, and let's click on the page.js. So right now we have our exercise cards hard coded in. We can go ahead and remove those. And at the top of this function, let's go ahead and make this an asynchronous function. And what we want to do is we want to create a variable named exercises. And we want to set it equal to await. And we want to get the exercise. We want to call, the exercise function, get exercises that we just created. And it is saying that it cannot find mongoose. Module not found. Let's go back and let's go npm mongoose. I'm pretty sure this had to be installed already. Okay. Well, let's click save, and we see that it is connected. So now what we want to do is we want to display those exercises here. But first I want to do a conditional render. In the event that the exercise length is equal to 0, what I want to do is I just want to show a message that reads no exercises posted. Add your first exercise today. Okay, and then we'll say in the or statement, or the statement in the event that the length is greater than 1. Let me put this in fragments, paste it in. And in the event we do have an exercise, I want to go exercise this.map, map over and show an exercise. Then we want to pass in, let me see, it's giving me a, wait a minute. Okay, I see what's going on here. Let's do this. Let's go. And we'll say, actually, we don't even need to do this. We should just be able to go exercises.map. And we're going to name it exercise. And we're going to say, pass in the exercise card. We want to say key. And this is going to be exercise.id. And exercise, let's set it equal to exercise. Okay. And we can hit save. And yep, that's exactly what we should see. Let's add a little bit of styling to this. So we'll go class name text center. Let's go with font bold. Let's go text 3XL. Center it. There we go. And what does this look like? Yep, toggles looks just fine. All right. So we see that it is working. We see MongoDB is connected. It's querying the database and conditionally rendering this message in the event that we don't have a exercise. In the event we don't have a exercise in the database. So now what we want to do is let's go ahead and add our first exercise. So if we go over to our web page, if we click on post exercise, we see that it redirects to the new exercise page. And let's go ahead and style this page a little bit so that, and let's give it some functionality too, so that we can add exercises into the database and begin to display our cards onto the screen. So I want to use the same basic card and a few more things that we had, a few more pre-built functions on our new window or new function, new page, excuse me. And let's just go ahead and remove this div. And we're going to need to give some styling first. So I'm going to go, actually, I'm going to replace this div and make it a section. And we'll go px4, py8. And we'll start the card with a class name of max width screen. Let's go medium mx auto, so it's in the middle. Let's hit save. And we'll go card header. And let's make this the fitness tracker. Hit save. Okay, that's fine. And underneath it, let's add in a divider, and that's the divider there. And inside of the card body, now we want to have the ability to add a exercise, and that is going to come in the form. In order to do so, we're going to need a form, and we'll need to give our form some styling. We'll need to give it an action as well, but we'll style it first. So we'll go class name of flex column. We'll go item center, padding of 4, and we'll go gap 6. And okay, that looks fine. And I want to use the input from nextui.org, just to use these pre-built inputs so we don't have to style everything ourselves. And the first input is going to have a class name of width full, and not col, but full. And we'll give it a placeholder of name. This is going to represent the name. And we'll also turn the autocomplete to false. This thing still works from time to time, but hopefully it doesn't. So we have class name, placeholder input. We're going to add a name of name as well. Now if we click save, we see that we have the name input onto the screen. And we see that it works just fine with light dark mode. And if we go to full screen, we notice that the maximum width of it is no bigger than medium. Great. Now underneath this input, I want to have a div, because I want to have the duration and calories right next to each other. So we'll place those inputs in a div. And we want that div to have a class name of flex. We'll give it a gap of 4, and we'll make the width full. And inside of this div, we're going to have a input, and the type is going to be number. We'll go placeholder duration, and we'll give it a name of duration. We'll hit save. That's what it looks like. So now let's copy this input, and we're going to paste. Copy too much. Let's paste it underneath the initial input, and we'll keep the type as number, but the duration is going to be the placeholder. Excuse me, is going to be calories. All right, calories. And the name is going to be calories. And we'll hit save. And we see we have it listed here onto the window. Now underneath the calories, I want to have, underneath this div, I want to have the ability to select the mood. Now the mood is going to be in a select drop down. This could have been typed in, or radio button options. I just decided to go with select, and I'm going to name, inside of select, I'm going to name it mood, and I'm going to give it a class name of width of full, and we'll go padding of 6. make it rounded large. We'll make the background gray 100. And let's hit save. That's what it looks like. So I'm okay. Let's go dark. And we'll go BG gray 500. Yeah, that's fine. We'll make the gray 700. Customize it because this isn't going to be used from NextUI. We're using the regular HTML select. The reason being is because with NextUI it's an object and it's a little trickier to work with, and I want to keep this fairly simple. I just want to use NextUI. It's not anything that prominent to the project, so we'll just style it individually. And then within the select, we want to have some options. And the first option, we want to have the value of amazing. And these are the moods that we're going to pass into our moods component. And we'll put that option as amazing. And we can go ahead and copy this option and add two more. The second one, let's give it a value of solid job. And we'll say nice work. Or solid work. We'll say solid work. Solid work. Keep it consistent. And this last one, we'll make it glad it's over. And we'll put the value for the option as glad it's over. So let's hit save. And you can see those options are listed here. And if we change this to light mode, we see that looks just fine as well too. Okay. So now underneath this select, let's add a label. And this is going to be our rating section. Give us the ability to add in a rating. So we'll go input. And we'll give it a type of number, a name of rating, a placeholder of rating. Okay, and you have the ability to rate it. Well, I'm gonna remove. It's just not a string. Okay. Next, we'll have a text area for notes. Now we're not going to display the notes on the card. You can only see the notes if you click on the name and go to the exercise detail page. But we're still going to give it a name, of course, and it needs a placeholder of notes. Let's save it. And let's use the one from NextUI. Is it already imported? Nope, I guess not. So let's import it now. And there we go. And let's add a button, because what good is a form without a button? And I'm actually going to use the button from NextUI. And inside of it, we'll just name this post exercise. Let's give it a class name of BG primary. And we'll go, let's see what it looks like. Type submit. And press enter. There we go. All right, so now we have our form to enter a new exercise within our database. So now we'll need a way to submit this information. So we'll need to create a function that will interact with our database in order to add a exercise to it. So in order to do so, we'll need to add a function within a directory or a file named action. So we'll place this in our lib directory, and let's add a file named action.js. And at the top of the action file, we'll start by bringing in use server. And we're going to need to connect to our DB. We're going to need to bring in our exercise model. We'll also want to bring in a few other options. Let's bring in from next cache. Let's bring in Let's bring in next cache, and we want to bring in from that package. We want to bring in revalidate path. Let's also bring in redirect. That is from next navigation. It's not React. Next. It's navigation, and the name of it is redirect. And let's also bring in, I don't think we're going to tie this to the user. We could, but we're not going to in this video. So now let's go ahead and create the function to add an exercise. And we're going to name this function add exercise. And it'll be an asynchronous function. And we're going to pass in the form data. And we want to grab, the name, the duration, rating. All of this is going to be set equal to object.form entries. And we're going to pass in the form data. And what other fields did we have? I'm sorry, right here. We had it name, duration, rating. Let's add calories. Notes. And I think we also had mood. Yep. Okay. And let's hit save. And underneath it, let's add a try catch block. First, we want to await the connection to our database, and then we'll create a variable named new exercise and set it equal to new exercise. This is from the exercise model. Excuse me. And in it, we want to pass in this information. And we'll say await new exercise dot save. And we'll throw inside the catch portion, we will throw a new error. And we'll just say failed to add exercise. And we definitely want that error. And then we'll go revalidate. We'll direct you back to the dashboard page, dashboard, and the redirect. It'll go back to the dashboard as well. Okay, so let's save this. Everything looks good here. Let's go to the new page, new exercise page. And the main thing we want to do from here is within the form, we want to add an action. And the action that we want to add is the add exercise function. So if you pass in action within form and you start to type in add, you should see the add exercise function that we just created. It's within the lib directory action file, the file name action. We can remove this card footer. We're not using it. Okay, and if we save this and let's just test it out. I'm going to add walking. It was for 60 minutes. We burned 400 calories. We'll say it was solid. I'm gonna give it a rating of 3. And with the notes on it are gonna be a nice, peaceful walk before work. So we hit. We see that we're still connected, and we see that we have the exercise card being displayed because we now have a exercise within our database. So now let's update the exercise card component so that it is dynamically passing in this information, and it's dynamically, passing in this information and showing what we're getting from the database in the card. So let's go ahead and close out the new page. Let's close out action, and let's go back to the exercise card itself. So the first thing we'll need to do within this exercise card is we'll need to pass in the exercise as a prop, exercise. We'll hit save, and we want to start dynamically showing some of this information. So let's go ahead and remove the exercise name, and we'll use the curly brackets, and we'll type in exercise.name so that it's showing the name of the actual exercise that we created. And now you'll see it is currently showing walking. And we'll also want to go ahead and update this link so that it redirects the user to the individual exercise page in the event you click on the exercise name. So I am going to add in the ID of the exercise. So we'll add in the curly braces because we already used the backticks, and I apologize if I didn't mention that. But be sure to use the backticks, not the quotation marks there. And then at the end of dashboard/exercise, we're going to pass in exercise.id, and then we'll hit save. Now, to make sure that this works properly, let's go ahead and add in this directory and this dynamic route. So within the website folder, the dashboard folder, let's add another folder named exercise. And then inside of exercise, let's add another folder named open bracket ID close bracket. And then within it, let's add a file named page.js. Let's just type in the RFCE template for right now. And we can name this exercise page. Let's go single exercise page, single exercise page. And let's just save it. Let's close it out for right now. I don't want to worry about the styling. I just want to make sure that it works. So if we click on walking, it should redirect us to that page. Let's just make sure. And I'm going to add a loading state in here as well. But for right now, we see that once we click on it, it did redirect us to the single exercise page. And we see that we are getting the ID in the URL. And to make sure it is the right ID, if we go to our MongoDB cluster and refresh the page, you'll see that we are now getting exercises in our database. And if you scroll down, you see that we have one exercise that we just created. It has the same ID, ends in F9, yep, listed here. We see that it's walking 60 minutes, 400 calories, rating of 3, mood of solid job, notes, a nice peaceful walk after work. Everything that we typed in within our card that we created. So let's just go back to the card so we can continue to dynamically pass in this information. So within the card, now that we've updated the name, next, let's just go ahead and update or add in the delete functionality. So to have the delete functionality, we'll need to have a form listed or have this button wrapped in a form. So go ahead and highlight the button that has the open and closing HTML button tag, and within it the delete icon. And let's add a form, and inside of that form let's add in a button. And now the form will need to have an action, but we don't have the delete action created just yet. But inside of the form, it does need an input. We need to pass in the ID. So we're not going to worry about styling this input. It's actually going to be hidden. So we'll just use the regular HTML input. Let's add in hidden. And inside of hidden, we'll also give it a name of ID and a value of exercise.id, and we'll add the closing input tag. And since we already have this input listed here, let's just go ahead and add the action of deleting this exercise. So back in the lib directory, inside of the file name action.js, let's just go ahead and add in delete exercise within the file. So we'll already have that one cared for, and we'll just name it export const delete exercise. EXERCISC, yep. And we'll go is equal to async, and we're going to pass in the form data. And we're going to pass the ID and set it equal to object.form entries. And we'll pass in the form data. And we'll start by going with await connect to DB. Call that function, and inside of a try catch block, let's just go await exercise, and this is using the exercise model, and we're going to use the mongoose function of find by ID and delete. And what we want is the ID that is coming from the input be passed in as a form. We want to use that. We want to use that ID to locate the exercise by using the model, and we want to delete it. And if we get a error, we want to say failed to delete exercise, and we'll click save. And we want the user to go back to the dash. We want to revalidate the dashboard page, and then we'll hit save. I'm not going to test it just yet, but I did want to just go ahead and have it updated. So now that we have the delete functionality, let's go ahead and dynamically pass in the duration and also the calories. So for the duration, and let's remove the number 30, and let's just add exercise.duration and hit save. And we see that it now updates to 60. And the same thing for calories. Let's remove the number 400, and let's add exercise.calories, and let's hit save. And we see that the calories are now showing 400, which is what they showed before, but the difference is it now is being dynamically pulled from the database. So now we need to update the rating functionality, and first we'll start by passing in rating. And we want this to be the exercise.rating. So basically the way this is going to work is it's going to show all of the ratings, and it's going to highlight those that it's going to highlight the number of dumbbells that are corresponded with the number that we entered for the rating. So it'll make a little more sense once we begin to build it out. So let's go back to the file name ratingdisplay.js, and this is within the components directory. What we want to do within it is begin to pull all of the information, show all of the dumbbells, and highlight the correct ones based on the rating. So I'm going to just go ahead and remove this dumbbell file within the column. Well, actually, you know what? Let's bring it back in. Right above the second div, let's just go ahead and copy this div so that we're working with just one div for right now. Copy it and delete it. We can always add it back in a moment. And I want to go brackets, or open curly brackets, excuse me. And then I want to have the regular brackets, and I want to destructure the array of max rating. And we want to go .map. And basically what this is doing, we want to show the index. And then inside of this, just paste in the div that we just copied. And basically what this is doing is this is looping over the maximum number of stars or dumbbells that we can have, and showing it as looping over it and destructuring the array. And for each one, it is showing a strength icon. So we're getting if you look in the console, we're getting a top level recall error that we have to include the key inside of that main div. So in the div, let's just add in key, and let's just make it exercise, not that exercise. Let's just make it exercise.id. Hit save. Yeah, I know that one isn't defined, so let's remove that one and go with that one. No, that's not the right ID. I'm sorry. This is going to be a ID of index. Duh. Sorry about that. Because we're not passing it in dynamically. We just want to make it the index. That way we can get rid of the error. Sorry about that. And we see that listed there. So now what we want to do is we want to fill the number of dumbbells based on how many, the rating that we gave this workout. So let's go ahead and remove this class name, and we'll add another one. And we're going to dynamically or conditionally render some information. So first we want to have the index, and we'll say if the index is less than the rating, we want to go filled dumbbell or empty dumbbell. And if we click save, it says rating is not defined. Yep, got to pass in the rating. And if we hit save, if you remember, we selected 3 dumbbells, and that is, we're now seeing 3 dumbbells with this yellow color that represents the dumbbells that we said the rating was for this workout. So that's working just fine. We're getting a warning inside of the console. Hold on. What is this warning? We'll clean this one up in a minute, but I just want to keep track of it. Value prop to a form without an on-change handler. Okay, got it. We'll come back and we'll fix that. So if the field should be mutable, if the field should be mutable, use default value. Got it. So I think this is coming from where we passed in the value, and it should have been default value. Hold on, right here. Yep, there we go. All right, so for right now, we can keep this open. We can actually close out the rating display, but we do need to go back and clean up our mood display. So if you go to the My App directory and begin to open up the file tree a little bit, you want to go to the directory named components. Inside of components, you want to click on the file named mooddisplay.js. And inside of this, we want to display our mood, and we also gave it a little color indicator just to give it a little bit of styling that say, hey, this was a green workout, so this was good. This was a yellow workout, so it was okay. Red workout, not so much. So in order to conditionally render this based on the mood that's being passed, we're passing a string. We could have done this as a number or a few different ways, but I just chose to do a string just to try something different. We want to take the mood and we want to set up a little bit of gating, and we want to say to lowercase just to make sure that no matter what we get, it is in lowercase and be easy to read. So if the case, or if we get amazing, ZING, we want to set the color. We want to set that color to BG green, and we'll make this one 300, and then we'll go break. And then the next case is if it is solid job. We want to set the color to BG yellow 300, and then we'll go break. And then the last case is we'll go glad it's over. Oh, I guess it'll help if I put this here too. And we'll go color. We'll set this color to BG red. BG red 200, 300. And then we'll go break. And then we'll go default. We'll set color to BG slate 600. And then we want to return color. And let's save this. Hold on. I think I got this. Yep, this should have been inside of this. Sorry, I just realized that. And then we'll do return color. And then we'll say this should be let color. Constant get color. Okay, that looks good. All right, so now that we have this in place, let's begin to set up our dynamic rendering. So we can remove this class name, and we'll add in the curly brackets and the backticks, and we'll go inline block, and we'll go rounded LG, padding on the X of 4, on the Y of 2, and we'll go text to be extra small, and we want the font to be semi-bold. The text is going to be gray 700, and what we want to pass in is get color, and we want to list the mood. All right, let's hit save, and let's remove this mood. We see that the default is working fine. Actually, you know what? Instead of it being gray, I want it to be light green. Let's see, what did we put in our LITEGREE? You know what? I think it won't take this one because it is. If it won't, it's fine. Let's go mood. Let's go gray 700. And looks like it's not dynamically pulling it, so let's go default color slate. Alright, refresh this. Nope, it's not pulling in that information. Oh, so let me do this. I need to pass it into the actual card in order to get it to work. So right here, let's pass in mood, and then let's go exercise.mood. There we go. All right, so now we see that because it was, we have it listed as a solid job, it is showing the yellow background, and if we toggle it, we see that it looks good. So let's test out the delete functionality to make sure it works. Nope, so it's not deleting it from the database just yet. Okay, so we'll need to care for that as well. But first, now that we have this working, let's go ahead and work on the individual exercise. That way we'll have the ability to see the individual exercise on the page itself. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on the name so that we can see it. And you can see we're on the single exercise page right now. So first I want to open it up within the page so I can see the actual code and make some changes to it. And we can just start out by removing this div and add in a section. And let's add single exercise. And I'm going to give it a class name, padding of X of 4, padding Y of 8. Hit save. All right, so now that we have that cared for, let's add in some imports. And I want to use the same card that we've been using. So we can just go to the new page, and at the top, just copy in all of the imports that we used on the new for the card design, and let's import them here. And we'll need to, now that I think about it, we'll need to have a way to pass this information to this component, and we're going to use parameters to do so. But first, we need to be able to get this information from the database. So let's go ahead and navigate back to the data.js file. And it should be within lib right here. And underneath the get exercises, let's do a get single exercise. And we'll create a function named export const get single exercise. And we'll make it an asynchronous function. We'll pass in the ID. And inside of a try catch block, we'll go with await, and we want to connect to the DB. And we'll go const exercise is equal to await. And we're going to use the model that we used earlier, and we want to go find by ID. And we want to find the exercise with this corresponding ID that we're passing in the database, ASYNC, there we go. And we want to return exercise. And if we get an error, failed to get single exercise. And let's hit save. And then now if we go back to our single exercise page, we want to pass in params here. And inside of the params, we know we'll need to get the, inside of the single exercise function, first let's destructure the ID from params. And then we want to do const exercise is equal to, let's make this an asynchronous function. And we want to set the exercise is equal to await. And we'll say get single exercise. And we want to pass in the ID. And just to make sure this is working first, let's just go exercise dot name and see what we get. And you see that we're getting walking, so we know that we're passing in the exercise information. So now on this window, instead of just showing the single exercise, because only one user, we're not setting this up for multiple users just yet. We're only setting up for a single user. Let's just go ahead and present the form. Let's go ahead and show the form to update the exercise content. So within this page, we're not only going to have the get request, but we're also going to show the update action as well. So let's just go ahead and create that update action now, since that'll be the final piece to our puzzle, so to speak. So inside of the lib directory, let's add another function, and this particular function is going to be called update exercise. So we'll go export const update exercise, and of course this is going to be a asynchronous function. And we want to pass in the form data. Actually, this one is going to be capital form data. And I need to, this one should have been capital F2. Now let's see that. And this one also should have been capital F. Okay, and we'll go arrow function, and we'll go const. Actually, we can just copy this. Make sure that looks good. Form entries, form data. Yep. Actually, change this to a capital F. And then right here, we'll go await, connect to DB, and we'll add a try catch block. And let's go const update fields, fields, and in it we'll go curly brackets. And what we want to do is we want to pass in these exact same fields, and then we're going to go object.keys, because we want to grab the keys, and we want to pass in update fields. And then for each, we're going to say we're going to take the key, and then we'll go update fields, and we'll go key, and then we'll say it's equal to empty string or undefined. Actually, it should just be this. And update fields, and then we'll go key, and I think I might have one too many brackets listed here, so let's see. Entry fields, that update fields, that looks good. Key listed there. And this should actually be after undefined. Yep, and then and delete. All right, that looks good. And then underneath this function, let's go await, and it will say exercise find by ID and update. And we want to pass in the ID and update fields. And we'll throw a new error and failed to update exercise. And then let's go revalidate path, and we'll go dashboard, and then we'll go redirect / dashboard. And let's name this update single exercise. Okay. And this looks pretty good. So now, with this updated, we can go back to our single exercise page.js. And like I said, on this particular file, what we want to do is I want the ability to not only see the exercise information, which we can with the GET request, but I also want the form listed here so that we can update the exercise on this page as well. So we'll do a little bit of styling. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the card, and I'm gonna give it a class name like we did as well. Actually, you know what? We can just copy this new form and we'll make some changes to it to keep it simple. So inside of the new exercise page, just copy everything from the card. And I realized I didn't copy it all the way down to the bottom, but just copy everything from the opening card to the closing card tag and close out that file. And let's go back to the single exercise page, and let's paste in that card that we just copied. If we hit save, let's update the action in the form, and let's update it to update exercise. And now you're going to see that we have the form on this screen. So let's make sure that the updates and everything is working as we want. So we've updated the action. Now instead of this this placeholder, let's remove this and let's change this input to default value. And inside of that default value, we'll remove the string and we'll add the brackets, and we'll go exercise.name, and let's paste the file, or let's save the file, excuse me. And if we refresh, we see that we're now getting walking. And now let's do the same thing on the next one. So where it says, and I'm sorry, inside of that input, let's also add ID of name, and then let's click save. And now let's do the same thing for the remainder inputs. Let's remove the placeholder next to duration, and let's go with default value. And let's add an ID of duration, and let's press save. And if we hit refresh, nope, sorry, we got to remove this string and go with exercise.duration. Sorry about that. Let's save it, update it. Now we see 60 and we have the ID. Now let's do the same thing for calories. Default value, and let's update this string to show exercise.calories. And let's add the ID of calories. Hit save, refresh. You see it listed here. And now we want to update the mood. So underneath name, let's add an ID of mood. And let's add a default value of exercise.mood. And let's hit save. We see it changes to solid work. That's great. And you're doing great. Let's go to ID and let's add a rating. Let's replace the placeholder with default value. And we're going to pass in exercise.rating. And let's hit save. Let's remove this placeholder. Nope, let's hit, sorry. Let's save it. And we see that we see the 3 now. Now let's go to the notes. Let's add an ID of notes and replace placeholder with default value. Replace the note string with brackets exercise.notes. Save. Refresh. Now we can go ahead and see if this is working as well too. So instead of it being a 3, I decided to change it to a 4. And instead of burning 400 calories, I realized I burned 420. And we'll change this to, we'll keep it as, we'll make it, we'll say glad it's over. And then we'll hit save. Update ID is not defined. Okay, so it looks like we did not define the ID. So let's go back to the action file, and if we scroll down to our update single exercise, if you notice right here, we're not passing in the ID, and this is a consequence of me copying and pasting and not typing it out directly. So now if we add an ID, save that file, and go back to the single exercise page, let's just change some of the information to see if it worked. We'll go with 425 calories burnt. We'll say glad it's over, and we'll change the rating to 4. Hit save. And we notice that we're still not getting new information here on the screen, but let's look in our database. Let's refresh it. And it didn't take there either. So let's go back to the exercise form. And let's go to the page.js. And let's take a look at this code, because it gave us a error, and didn't give us an error, excuse me, it didn't update in the database. So let's see, we have that as exercise update, and the params passing in the ID. And have the action of update. Sorry, I just want to make sure input number, name is duration, ID of duration. Have it set as the default value. Sorry, let me check one more thing here. Let's go back to the actions and make sure I didn't type anything wrong here. We have the ID object dot form entries. Wait, connect, yep. Update field. Name, duration, rating, calories, note, mood. Yep. Object.keys. Update fields. Dot for each key. Yep, update fields, key. Let's set it equal to string or undefined. And delete update keys, or update fields, excuse me, key. It just says find by ID and update. Yep. Okay, that looks good. So let's take a look at it. Updated to size get, yep. Because it didn't even hit the database, so it's almost as if it didn't even get out to make the request. But that looks good, Okay, let's see, passing in the form data, yep. Object.form entries, yep, form data, await. Oh, it's still not, okay, so neither one of those are working right now. So let's see, why aren't we getting any action to our update here? Let's look at this page again. Yep, that is good. ID, name, default value. Type, default value, name ID, name duration, ID duration. Make sure these are spelled correctly. Yeah, that looks good. Calories. Type, number, default value. Yep, both of those look good. Mood. Let me see something. This shouldn't matter, but it's not even attempting to connect to the database. That's what's making it odd. It's saying connected there, so it should be. Let me see something here. Let's go. Nope, it's not hitting it still. So we got use server there. And sorry, there's a little stumbling block here on why it's not updating. Let's see, constant form data, yep. There we go. I had it uppercase to see if that makes a difference. Nope. All right, have the ID. Object form entries, form data, await. Yep. So now let's just look at the card. Well, I see why this one isn't working. Let's go with delete exercise. It'll help if you pass it in. And refresh. Well, that takes care of the delete. So now let's look at the update. So we'll go back to action. We'll set this to lowercase. We'll set this to lowercase. We'll hit save. And let's post the exercise. Let's go jogging. We'll save for 35 minutes. We burned 450 calories. We felt amazing. 5-star afternoon jog before dinner. We see that it is listed here. Okay, that's great. So now we'll go to the single page. Let's change this to 40. Oh, still showing 35 minutes. Okay. And let's see, what did we get in the database? Still showing 35 there. Okay, so we know, so we have the delete functionality working. Now it is just the single update that is not working. So let's look at this action again. Might have missed something here. Update const and duration, rating, calories, notes, mood, object.form entries, passing in the form data, const update fields, name, duration, yep. Yeah, that looks good. Of course, it's server. Find by ID and update, yep. Throw a new error. Revalidate, yep. I bet it's something that's just simple that's about to bite me that I'm missing. Let's see, why is this thing? All right, await object dot keys. Yep, that looks good. Need fields dot for each key. I'm gonna go update fields, pass in the key. Or setting it equal, or if it equals to equal string, undefined, and delete update keys. Yep, yeah, that looks good. And then form action this update exercise. I don't think that should matter, but let's just try it for giggles. Card body input. That's right. Gotta pass in the ID. So we'll go input, type, text. Let's go name of ID, hidden. Let's go exercise. No, I'm sorry. It needs to be default value. We're gonna go exercise.id. And now let's save and go back. Let's change this to a capital J. And it was actually 40 minutes. And we will do it again, baby. Boom. 40 jogging. And we will do it again, baby. Okay, so we have all of the functionality updated, so that's great. Now we can go back and work on styling out our home page. the main functionality works, but if you're interested in just bringing a little bit of style to the home page, we can we're going to take care of that now. So let's do this. Let's start by going inside of the app directory, and let's close up some of these other directories. We see that we have a page.js file, and inside of this page.js, let's remove the code that's within the div, and let's actually just go ahead and remove the div as well too. Let's replace that div with a section, and we're going to give it a class name and a height of full, padding top of 40, and we'll give it a div. The div will have a class name of flex. Let's make the flex column. We want the items centered, and we want everything in the middle of the screen. Middle. And on medium devices, we're going to go justify start. All devices, we want the text to be centered. We want a gap on the Y of 8. Flex 1, padding on the X of 6, and some padding bottom of 10. Okay, and so let's save the file. We don't see anything right now. We'll say, so tell you what, let's go into the components directory, and let's add a folder named homepage. And inside of homepage, let's add a file named heading text.js. We'll give it a RFCE React component. What this is going to be, actually, let's just go ahead and bring it into the page first so we can see it. Let's go heading text. Why don't you like me? What did I do here? There we go. And we can just go ahead and style the heading text really quick. We're going to give it a div, class name of max width of 3XL. We're going to go space on the Y of 4. And then we'll give it a H1 with a class name of text 3XL. Small text will be 5XL. Medium text will be 6XL. And we want the font to be bold. So this is our H1. And we're going to have your fitness journey, JOURNEY, starts here. Welcome to span, and we'll say last name underline fit dfit log. Hit save. There we go. And underneath this H1, let's have a H3. And we'll give it a class name, and we'll go text base, small text XL, medium text 2XL, and we'll go font will be medium. And inside of it, we'll go fit log is your ultimate companion for tracking progress, achieving goals. HEVING, yeah, that's it, goals, and staying healthy. Hit save. All right, and if we open it up, great, that looks good. So now I think I want to add a little hero section here. So within homepage, let's add a file named hero.js. We'll give the RFCE template and go back to the heading. and underneath it we'll just add hero like that. And then now we want to just create a simple little hero section. I don't think this will be very much, but we'll just add a little, yeah, it'll be a little something. So let's just go back to the div and let's bring in a React icon. We want to do a React icon F5, and we'll bring in link. And I want this to be the I think it's a chevron, and this one needs to be down. Okay. Let's remove this div. You know what? I think I'm just going to keep this I'm going to keep this even simpler. So let's do this. Let's go class flex column item center, justify center, mx with 5xl. And then we'll go another div. We'll go class name of flex column item center. And then we'll go div class name, and this one will be flex column justify center and item center. And right here we'll have the F5 chevron down, and I want this one to have a class name of text primary, so that is orange, and we're going to go animate bounce, and we need to create this bounce, and we're going to go size of 24. Let's hit save, and you see that we have the down animation there. And underneath this down arrow, let's create a link, and we'll give it a href of login to take it to the login screen. Login here. And let's give this a class name, and we'll make the BG primary. We'll go hover BG orange 300. Yeah, that should be fine. Text will be white. Font will be bold. Padding on the Y of 2. Padding on the X of 4. And we'll go rounded. Let's click save. There we go. Let me highlight on it. Then it takes you here, and you have the ability to sign in. And we're going to sign in with the JA dab. And now that we signed in, we see we're redirected. And we have the ability to toggle. We can see individual exercises. Let's just add yay to make sure that it works. And if we click on this exercise again, we see that yay is there. Okay. So that completes our full stack fitness tracking blog or fitness tracking website. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did or have any other suggestions, feel free to leave me a comment below. Otherwise, if you have any suggestions about any other projects, just let me know. The GitHub code will be in the description, and I hope you enjoyed the video.